When Emma Brooks first drove through the stone archway that marked the entrance to Willow Creek, she felt as if she were entering a photograph, one of those glossy images used to sell modern serenity in real estate magazines. The streets were lined with identical maple trees, each pruned into near-perfect symmetry. The lawns stretched like green carpets, and not a single garden hose or children's toy dared to interrupt the order. Every mailbox gleamed the same shade of pale gray, every house a tasteful blend of beige and restraint. It was a place that seemed built not just for living, but for approval. After 10 years of living in apartments surrounded by traffic noise and flickering hallway lights, Emma thought she'd finally found a sanctuary. She was 32, single, and comfortable in her solitude, a software developer who worked from home, her days divided between code, coffee, and the occasional craving for silence. Willow Creek seemed designed for people like her, quiet, structured, efficient. A neighborhood where nothing unexpected happened. Her new home sat on a small corner lot, framed by white rose bushes planted long before she arrived. The porch smelled faintly of cedar, the floorboards creaking with a soft, lived-in familiarity. She spent her first week unpacking, organizing, and marveling at how easy it was to breathe when the world finally stopped shouting. The rhythm of suburban calm suited her early morning walks, evening tea on the porch, the comforting hum of sprinklers in the distance. It felt almost cinematic, like she'd stepped into the third act of someone else's perfect story. The neighbors were polite in that distant, choreographed way that suburban communities perfect over decades. They waved when they passed, but never lingered long enough to ask real questions. It was fine by her. She wasn't looking for friendship, just peace. And for a while she got it. Weeks slipped by in quiet repetition coding, grocery runs, online meetings, the occasional late-night takeout. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing wrong. Then came the first flicker of intrusion. It started small, a handwritten flyer tucked under her doormat. Welcome to Willow Creek. Please review your HOA guidelines for a harmonious community. It wasn't signed, but the handwriting was sharp, precise, the kind of script that belonged to someone who ruled their kitchen like a courtroom. Emma smiled, thinking it was neighborly if slightly obsessive. She placed it on her fridge and forgot about it. A few days later, another appeared, this time printed on heavy cream paper, bearing the logo of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Reminder: trash bins must be stored out of sight after collection. Compliance ensures community beauty. Her bins had been out for less than an hour. It was the kind of note that wasn't exactly hostile, yet carried a pulse of authority that made the air colder. She didn't know it then. But those quiet reminders were the first whispers of Margaret Kent, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, a woman whose power rested not on kindness or title, but on the sheer force of her attention. Margaret noticed everything: uneven blinds, wind-blown leaves, the precise minute a light went out. To her, perfection wasn't a goal. It was law. Emma heard her name for the first time during a casual chat with her next-door neighbor, a soft-spoken retiree watering petunias. "You'll meet Margaret soon enough," he said, half amused, half resigned. "She's thorough." He didn't elaborate, and Emma didn't press. Every neighborhood, she thought, had its self-elected enforcer. For the next few days, she saw hints of Margaret's influence everywhere: the uniform landscaping, the spotless sidewalks, the way no house dared break formation. It was impressive in a way, the scale of invisible control. Still, Emma told herself it was harmless. People like that needed purpose, and as long as they left her alone, she didn't care. She couldn't have known that her quiet little dream of order would soon become a battleground. That beneath the symmetry of Willow Creek lay a hierarchy built on fear disguised as neighborliness. And at the top of it stood Margaret Kent, a woman who believed that rules were not meant to guide people, but to own them. For now, though, Emma just sat on her porch as the sun dipped below the rooftops, listening to the rhythm of sprinklers and crickets, completely unaware that her peace was already borrowed time. After 48 hours of debugging code and chasing a deadline that refused to cooperate, Emma decided she'd earned a break. The house was quiet, her laptop finally closed, and the evening felt heavy with relief. She opened her food delivery app, thumb hovering over her favorite order medium rare steak, roasted potatoes, and chocolate mousse. A small ritual of reward for surviving another week of isolation and screens. She placed the order, stretched her arms, and let herself imagine the comfort of that first bite. 30 minutes later, her phone chimed. Delivered. But no knock came, no rustle at the porch. She frowned, checked the window. The driveway was empty. She opened the app again, tapping the photo confirmation, and froze. The picture showed a white welcome mat embroidered with looping blue letters that read, "Home Sweet Home." Not hers. Her mat was plain. The siding was a different color, too, a muted pastel yellow, not her house's light gray. She called the driver immediately, her voice polite but firm. "Hi, I think you left my order at the wrong address." The man on the other end sounded uneasy. "No, ma'am, I double-checked," a woman answered. "Said she was expecting it. Even gave me your name when I asked." For a long second, Emma didn't know what to say. She scrolled back to the photo again, her eyes catching a familiar landmark: the teal shutters, the perfectly trimmed hydrangeas, the driveway lined with solar lanterns. She recognized the house. It was 3 doors down. She felt her stomach twist. It wasn't the missing food that unsettled her. It was the confidence. Whoever had taken it hadn't hesitated. They'd been expecting her order. And in that perfect little cul-de-sac where nothing ever went wrong, someone had decided her dinner was fair game. Emma slipped on her shoes and stepped out into the dusky evening, the air humming with the sound of sprinklers. The photo still glowed on her screen as she followed the pattern of brick driveways toward the teal shutters that looked too smug for their own good. Her peaceful suburb suddenly didn't feel so friendly anymore. The teal door looked even more self-important up close. The house behind it was a suburban masterpiece: pastel siding, manicured hedges, porch lights glowing in perfect symmetry. And from inside came the unmistakable scent of grilled steak, her steak. Emma hesitated only a moment before knocking. The door opened to reveal a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a real estate brochure. Silver blonde hair sculpted into an impeccable bob, pearl earrings catching the light, posture straight enough to suggest decades of practiced superiority. Her expression was polite in the way a locked gate is polite. "Good evening," Emma began carefully. "I think there's been a mix-up with a food delivery. I believe it was dropped off here by mistake." Margaret Kent's smile didn't waver. "Oh, there's been no mistake," she said sweetly, her tone crisp enough to chill the air. "Deliveries after 6 violate HOA policy. Section 12.3 food odors attract pests and disrupt neighborhood uniformity." Emma blinked. "That's not—" "I've already disposed of it properly," Margaret interrupted, her voice calm and final like a verdict. "Consider this a friendly first warning. Welcome to Willow Creek." The door clicked shut before Emma could respond. She stood there, stunned, the scent of seared meat still drifting from behind the closed door. The absurdity hit in waves: her dinner gone, a stranger claiming moral authority over takeout, and $75 vanishing into the air. She wanted to laugh, but the sound caught somewhere in her throat. By the time she walked back home, the porch lights along the street had flicked on in perfect synchrony, bathing every house in soft amber. Everything looked beautiful again, too beautiful. The kind of beauty that hides rot under the surface. That night, Emma ate cold cereal in silence, staring at the empty space on her porch where dinner should have been. Somewhere down the street, a fork scraped against fine china, and for the first time, she wondered what kind of place she'd really moved into. The next morning dawned bright and quiet, the kind of day that made Willow Creek look like a brochure again, sunlight spilling across perfect lawns, sprinklers hissing in rhythm, birds perched neatly on identical mailboxes. For a moment, Emma let herself believe the absurd dinner incident had just been a misunderstanding. Then she opened her mailbox. Inside was a folded sheet of bright orange paper stamped with an official-looking HOA header. The words leapt from the page. "Violation notice, unauthorized evening deliveries." Beneath it, a fine warning and a threat of further enforcement. The signature at the bottom was sharp and proud. Margaret Kent. HOA President Emma read it twice, then a third time, her frown deepening with each line. She walked back inside, set her coffee down, and pulled out the thick binder of association bylaws she'd received at closing. She flipped through every section: landscaping, maintenance, vehicle storage, seasonal decor. Nothing about deliveries. Nothing even close. Her confusion shifted into something colder. Margaret wasn't enforcing policy. She was inventing it. Emma drafted a short, professional email addressed to the HOA board, attaching a photo of the letter and politely requesting clarification. She even included timestamps and delivery records. The reply came minutes later, automated, impersonal. "Thank you for your inquiry. Your concern will be reviewed in the next HOA session." The next session, according to the website, was 6 weeks away. For the rest of the day, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she'd been marked singled out for some unspoken reason. Every time she glanced out the window, she half expected to see Margaret's pastel silhouette strolling by, clipboard in hand, eyes cataloging invisible crimes. By evening, the bright orange notice was pinned to her fridge, a reminder that order in Willow Creek wasn't natural, it was enforced. Weeks passed, and the absurd turned into routine. Every time Emma ordered food, it vanished before reaching her door. The delivery app would flash "delivered," but her porch stayed empty. Drivers claimed that the HOA president had collected it for her, or that the homeowner canceled. One even swore a polite woman with pearl earrings had introduced herself as Emma's spouse, thanking him sweetly before closing the door. It was surreal, a campaign of control waged through takeout boxes. Emma lost count of the missing meals, though her receipts told the story, over $300 gone in less than a month. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the message. Margaret was making it clear nothing entered Willow Creek without her permission. Emma tried reporting the thefts to the HOA again. No response. She reached out to the management company that oversaw the association. A polite representative promised to look into it, but stopped replying after the second email. The silence wasn't incompetence, it was fear. Margaret had ruled too long, her power woven into the neighborhood's culture like wallpaper no one dared to tear down. Late one night, as Emma scrolled through yet another order confirmation, she caught her reflection in the dark screen, tired, hungry, but more than that, angry. The kind of anger that didn't burn hot, but cold, measured, precise. This wasn't just harassment. It was control, and Margaret was addicted to it. Control only works when people play by the rules. Emma stopped playing. The next morning, she bought a smart doorbell camera with night vision, motion sensors for the driveway, and a cloud storage plan that backed up everything automatically. She set up order alerts so she'd know the exact moment a driver arrived. If Margaret wanted to make a game of it, Emma would play smarter. Soon, she began collecting proof neatly labeled clips, timestamps, receipts. She built folders titled Incidents and Evidence. The software engineer in her treated it like a project: clean data, organized logs, reliable results. Each video was another piece of the puzzle. Each missing delivery, another pattern. When she finally started talking quietly to her neighbors, the truth came spilling out. A retired teacher down the block whispered, "Last year she had the Petersons' maple tree cut down while they were on vacation." Another added, "She fined us $50 a day until our granddaughter erased chalk drawings from the driveway." They all said the same thing in hushed tones. Nobody stands up to her. Emma smiled faintly at that. Then maybe it's time someone did. And with that thought, the plan began to form, not out of rage, but out of precision. Because bullies like Margaret thrived on fear, not facts. And Emma had always been better with facts. Emma understood that emails, bylaws, and polite logic wouldn't stop someone like Margaret Kent. Bullies thrived on silence, on people too tired or too scared to fight back. So Emma decided to change the rules. She wasn't going to argue anymore, she was going to prove it. Exposure, not confrontation, would end this. She spent several evenings planning every detail. If Margaret wanted to monitor deliveries, then Emma would give her one worth watching. The idea came while scrolling through a menu from Le Domaine, a high-end French restaurant that specialized in meals more suited for anniversary dinners than suburban revenge plots. She selected everything designed to sting: truffle risotto, Wagyu steak, foie gras, a $90 bottle of Bordeaux, and a delicate chocolate soufflé. The total came to $512, a ridiculous amount for one dinner, but this wasn't about food. It was bait. She set up her camera feed on multiple screens, syncing her doorbell's live view with her phone and laptop. Every angle, every pixel mattered. She checked her Wi-Fi signal twice, adjusted the porch light for clarity, and waited. The evening stretched out in heavy silence, broken only by the faint hum of cicadas outside and the rhythmic tapping of her keyboard as she logged timestamps. At precisely 7:14 p.m., her phone buzzed delivery arriving. Emma leaned forward, pulse steady but sharp. The feed flickered, and there it was, the delivery driver pulling into the cul-de-sac, headlights sweeping across manicured lawns. Then, right on cue, Margaret appeared. She emerged from her pastel-perfect home like an actress stepping onto a stage, her pearl earrings catching the porch light. Even through the camera, her confidence was unmistakable, that entitled stride, that posture of authority polished through years of unchallenged rule. She moved quickly, cutting across her perfect lawn with the precision of someone who had rehearsed this moment 100 times before. The driver looked uncertain, glancing at his phone, then at Margaret. She gestured toward Emma's house but stopped him short with a raised hand. Pointing to the delivery bag and speaking in that sharp, sugar-coated tone the entire neighborhood knew too well, Emma watched, not breathing. Every word, every motion, every stolen second streamed in high definition onto her screen. The trap had been set, and her queen had walked right into it. From behind her window, Emma watched Margaret intercept the delivery driver, her pearls gleaming under the porch light. She gestured with authority, pointing toward Emma's house but blocking the path. Through the camera's microphone, Emma heard her say, "Community regulation, I'll handle this." The driver hesitated, then reluctantly handed over the bags. Margaret smiled, thanked him, and disappeared inside. Emma's hands trembled not with anger but satisfaction. Everything was recorded in crisp HD: the delivery, the lie, the theft. She didn't storm over. She didn't shout. Instead, she called the non-emergency police line, voice calm and steady. "My neighbor just stole a 500 delivery. I have it all on video." 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars rolled quietly into Willow Creek. No sirens, just the soft hum of inevitability. From her porch, Emma watched the officers approach Margaret's door. The queen of the HOA opened it with her usual poise, but when she saw the uniforms, her expression faltered. The conversation started civilly, then turned sharp. One officer gestured toward Emma's house. The other lifted his radio. And then, under the glow of her perfect porch light, Margaret Kent's composure shattered. Handcuffs glinted. Cameras blinked. The neighborhood curtain finally fell on its self-appointed ruler. The news spread through Willow Creek faster than wildfire through dry grass. By evening, the entire cul-de-sac buzzed with whispers and half-concealed glances. Neighbors peeked through blinds, exchanging messages, pretending to water lawns just to get a glimpse of the patrol cars that had left Margaret Kent's driveway that morning. The queen of the HOA, the self-proclaimed guardian of order, had been led away in handcuffs. The image was almost too surreal to believe. By the next day, an emergency HOA meeting was announced. The email came with neutral phrasing, community update regarding recent events, but everyone knew what it was about. When Emma walked into the community hall, every seat was filled. The air hummed with the kind of anticipation that precedes long-awaited justice. At the front of the room sat the remaining board members, nervous, stiff, and silent. A stack of papers lay untouched on the table beside a pitcher of untouched water. Emma took a seat near the back, folding her arms as the whispers swelled around her like wind through dry leaves. When the meeting began, the vice president, a mild-mannered man named Harold Bennett, cleared his throat and read from a prepared statement. His voice trembled slightly. "Effective immediately," he said. "Margaret Kent has been suspended from her duties as president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association pending legal proceedings." Murmurs rippled across the room. Someone clapped once, hesitant, before others joined a small wave of relief disguised as applause. Harold continued. "We've been contacted by the county police regarding multiple incidents of theft, as well as misuse of HOA funds. The board will cooperate fully with the investigation." Emma stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the row of residents ahead of her. Many looked stunned, the same people who used to nod obediently at Margaret's commands now shifting uncomfortably in their seats. A woman 2 rows ahead whispered, "She fined me for having a red door." Another man added quietly, "She made me repaint my mailbox 3 times." The list of grievances grew with every voice that dared to speak. When it was Emma's turn, she didn't give a speech. She simply stood, unlocked her phone, and mirrored her doorbell footage onto the projector screen. The room fell silent. There she was, Margaret Kent, pearls glinting, intercepting the delivery driver, smiling with false authority, accepting Emma's order worth over $500. The sound of her voice filled the room. "Community regulation, I'll handle this." Then the clip of her shutting the door, vanishing inside with Emma's dinner. No one spoke for nearly a minute. The footage looped once, the silence heavy with realization. Then, from the back of the room, someone muttered, "Unbelievable." Another voice added, "Finally caught." Emma turned off the video and sat down. She didn't need to say a word. The evidence spoke louder than any argument ever could. When the vote to remove Margaret permanently from her position was called, not a single hand opposed it. Even the board members who had once cowered under her authority raised their hands without hesitation. It was unanimous. After the meeting ended, people gathered around Emma. Some thanked her quietly. Others apologized for not speaking up sooner. "She scared everyone," one man admitted. "But you handled her better than any of us ever could." Emma smiled faintly. "I just wanted to eat my dinner." That night, she walked home through the same manicured streets that had once felt suffocating. The air was cooler now, freer somehow. Porch lights glowed unevenly, some dim, some bright, imperfect, human. For the first time since she'd moved in, Willow Creek didn't look artificial. It looked alive. On her way up the porch steps, Emma noticed something new in her mailbox. A plain white envelope, no letterhead, just her name written neatly across the front. Inside was a handwritten note from Harold, the interim president. "Thank you for your patience and your courage. The neighborhood owes you more than you know." Below it, a small card. "Your next HOA payment has been waived. Consider it our first act of reform." Emma laughed softly, shaking her head. She didn't need repayment, just peace. She went inside, kicked off her shoes, and placed a new order from her favorite restaurant. When the notification buzzed 20 minutes later, she smiled. This time, the driver reached her door without interruption. 2 days after the HOA meeting, the neighborhood finally went silent. No more gossip in the group chat, no more staged morning patrols, no more pastel tyranny. For the first time since moving to Willow Creek, Emma woke up to a kind of quiet that didn't feel tense, just still. She made coffee, opened her laptop, and almost convinced herself it was over. Then came the knock. It wasn't loud, just hesitant 3 uneven taps, like someone testing the strength of a wall they'd already cracked. Through the peephole, Emma saw a familiar shape, smaller somehow. Margaret Kent stood on the porch, wrapped in a beige coat despite the warmth, her once perfect hair dull and flat. The woman who used to command a neighborhood now looked like she was asking permission to exist. Emma opened the door but didn't invite her in. The silence between them stretched like glass, ready to shatter with one wrong word. "My attorney said I should make restitution," Margaret began, her voice unsteady. She clutched a thick white envelope in both hands, knuckles pale. "This covers everything you lost, plus interest." She held it out like an offering. Emma didn't reach for it right away. She studied the woman in front of her, the same one who had smiled while stealing her dinner, who had sent threats disguised as HOA notices, who had built her self-worth out of rules and intimidation. Now that same woman couldn't hold eye contact for more than a second. "Thank you," Emma said finally, taking the envelope but not opening it. Margaret nodded, then lingered, eyes glassy. "You have no idea what this has done to me," she whispered. "The arrest, the papers, the calls I might lose my real estate license. My reputation is ruined. All over some misunderstanding." Emma raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding?" Margaret's composure cracked. "You don't understand what it takes to keep a community in order," she snapped, voice trembling with frustration more than anger. "People ignore the rules, they let things slip, and then everything falls apart. I kept this neighborhood perfect for 10 years. I gave it structure, standards. And this," she gestured weakly toward Emma's house, "this all fell apart over a few dinners." Emma didn't answer right away. She looked at Margaret not with anger, not even pity, just clarity. "You didn't keep it perfect," she said quietly. "You kept it afraid." "There's a difference." The words landed harder than she expected. Margaret's shoulders slumped. For the first time, the woman looked old not by years, but by exhaustion. Emma took a step back toward the doorway, her tone soft but final. "I never wanted this to ruin you," she said. "I just wanted it to stop." Margaret nodded slowly, lips trembling. "Do you think people will forgive me?" Emma hesitated. "Maybe, eventually, but not because you asked them to." For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Then the faint sound of Emma's phone chimed from the kitchen, a cheerful delivery notification. She glanced at the screen, then back at Margaret. "Excuse me," she said with a small, almost amused smile. "That's my lunch. And I think this time, it'll actually make it to my door." Margaret blinked, realization flickering across her tired face, a mix of regret and the faintest trace of relief. She turned, walked down the steps, and disappeared into the sunlight. Emma closed the door gently behind her and exhaled. The quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was earned. Days passed, and Willow Creek settled into a new rhythm, quieter, lighter, real. Lawns grew a little uneven, mailboxes started showing personality again, and for the first time, no one seemed afraid of being imperfect. The air itself felt freer, like the neighborhood had finally exhaled after holding its breath for years. Emma spent her mornings on the porch with coffee, laptop balanced on her knees, the soft hum of normal life around her. Delivery drivers came and went without interference. Neighbors waved instead of whispering. Sometimes she'd catch her reflection in the glass of the doorbell camera, calm, steady, content. The same lens that once caught every intrusion now captured something new. Peace. One evening, she found a note tucked in her mailbox. "Thank you for standing up when the rest of us couldn't," it read, unsigned. Beneath it, someone had drawn a small doodle of a coffee cup and a smile. Emma smiled too, folded the note, and slipped it into a drawer beside the old violation letter, a reminder of how far things had come. That night, she ordered her favorite meal again: steak, truffle potatoes, extra dessert. When the doorbell rang, she opened it to find the delivery driver smiling. "You must be the lady with the perfect porch," he joked. She laughed softly. "Not perfect," she said. "Just mine." As she carried the food inside, the sky over Willow Creek burned with sunset calm, imperfect, and beautifully human.